Did you get your name on the list up front?
I did, yeah, and I turned in my membership check.
Okay.
I was over there.
Landon, you got signed in, right?
The what?
Yeah, up front, 'cause that's how we're doing drawings tonight.
Oh.
Got some good stuff.
Who do we give the bird to?
You can give it to me. Okay, I'll get towards the front. Yes, but anyway, it's on the desk up there, so it's a big folder.
I'll text her now.
Yeah, tell her, she's got good.
Her and Ned met with them. It's been a whole thing.
Oh, I bet. We still got another minute. We have a lot of drawings tonight, so hopefully everybody signed in, because we're going by names. We're going to give everybody a number, and then that's how we're drawing. So I'll go out and get one of those real quick. Well, it's 7 o'clock. I know there are a few people who are going to join us from home tonight, so we'll go ahead and get started on time. Again, if you haven't gotten your name on the register out front, be sure and get your name, because that's how we're going to do some drawings. We're going to do some drawings all night long, with the big prize being at the end, and you have to be present to win. So, and we'll put down 2 numbers. If you sign the same line, we'll assign 2 numbers to a pair of folks that signed in. My name is Mark Broman. I'm the Executive Director of Wachiska Audubon. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. It's a little bit different than most programs. We've got some really good programs coming up in the next few months. Be sure and check out the Babbling Brook, the next edition. We've got some good talks coming up, so I want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. Let's see. Birdseed orders are due tomorrow. There are some extra birdseed orders out there on the front table. You can also go online and order online using your credit card, or if you want to get a check to us tonight or bring it by the office tomorrow, that would work too. So. And then we'll have the pickup will be at the Prairie Pines office like last year. It'll be Friday, March 20th from 3 to 6. That's a Friday, and then Saturday it'll be 11 to 2. And Jeff is helping us. Thanks, Jeff, for helping us with that. Jeff Myers will help us with the bird seeds. Then the next event coming up is Sunday, March 22nd from 10 a.m. to noon. That's a Sunday. We're going to have a cedar tree cutting party out there. And we've got 30 or 40 people that have showed interest, so I'm not sure how many people will show up, but we do have a lot of little trees growing up, and we've got some bigger ones too. And I know Pete said he was going to down a couple big ones, and then people can limb them up for us. So we've got all kinds of different jobs. So if you're up if it's a nice day, we'll have to wait and see what the 22nd looks like. But that's the cedar tree cut coming up. Then on Saturday, April 11th, from 10 to 3, we'll have a Wachiska booth at Return of the Thunderbirds at the Indian Center. That's just west of the Bob Devaney Center out there on Military Avenue. So if you want to come out to Return of the Thunderbirds, there's a lot of different booths. Return of the Thunderbirds is the Native American celebration of the spring rains and bringing the thunder and the thunderstorms coming in across the plains. And they're also going to have a fashion show afterwards. I believe it starts at 5. So if you want to stick around after the other event, but there's a lot of booths, people selling things, food, clothes, but it's all kind of nature-based or outdoors or Mother Nature-based. So again, that's Saturday, April 11th. Then Saturday and Sunday, April 18th and 19th. And I put a flyer out at the front table. The Raptor Conservation Alliance, Betsy, is celebrating their 50th anniversary at Mahoney State Park. And remember, those folks started out at Prairie Pines. That's where Betsy started in the very beginning. So, what's that? Oh,
They started with Wachiska.
right. They started with Wachiska, but she lived out at Prairie Pines, and so that's where her first center was out there. And so anyway, so they've been around 50 years, and they've got this event going on the 18th and 19th. So Saturday is an open house to the public from 1 to 3, and then they're going to have an anniversary banquet from 5:30 to 9, and registration is required. But again, out front there's a thing, or you can go online and look it up. And then, so that'll be 5:30 to 9 will be their banquet. And then Sunday, they're going to have a guided hike from 9 to 10. And then if they have enough interest, they're going to go over and tour their facility where they're located. So there is a QR code out there on that flyer. Let's see. I'll have you give everybody numbers. Just write numbers down, 1 through. Okay, you got numbers on? Okay, good. Let's go ahead and do a couple drawings now. Well, because we're going to try to scatter these out. So, what's the highest number on there?
The highest number?
Yep.
28.
Okay, so I've got pre-numbered tickets here. Go up to 28. Go in here. I'll even let you draw a number.
Oh, okay.
So we'll do a couple now.
Okay.
Okay.
24.
24. So someone that just came in.
And
Vivitor.
Daver.
Yep, right there in the center. Right in the center.
Hey.
Yep.
Okay, let's see.
So as you can see, we have a lot of prizes up here. So I think there's going to be a lot of winners tonight. So we'll do a couple right now. We'll draw 2 more. I'll let you draw 2 more tickets out.
16. Loris Pertzer. Loris Pertzer.
Yep.
Okay.
And then as she draws the last one, I'll go through a couple more announcements. On Saturday, April 25th from 10 to 2, we'll have a booth at Earth Day Lincoln. That's at Innovation Campus. That's the old state fairgrounds. So that's Lincoln Earth Day on Saturday, the April 25th, and we'll have a booth there. And then the next Sunday, or the next day, and the next day is we'll have a booth at Arbor Day at Antelope Park by the band shell and the Alt Pavilion, and it's from noon to 3. So that's on Sunday, April 26th. So if you need a tree, a lot of times they'll have trees to give away, and they're pretty nice trees. It's the Arbor Day Foundation. So if you want to come to Arbor Day celebration, that's the next day then. I'll let you add Al on the list. You can put Al Davis down. I see Al came in.
Always late.
Yeah.
But he's here. Yeah.
Here, we'll stick another number in the bag here. And we'll let you draw 1 more. And then Saturday, May 2nd, we're going to have a booth at Pioneer Park, the Nature Center, from 10 to 2. They've got a nature program going out there. It's centered around younger kids and families, so that's May 2nd. So you can see we have a lot of things coming up as far as having booths. We also have some nature nights, which are different elementary schools that Tim's in charge of.
Jack Eager.
There you go.
Right.
Then the next thing I wanted to mention is Sunday, May 17th, Comedy in the Pines. So we're trying something new. Remember last year we did Music in the Pines in the fall. Well, this year we've got Comedy in the Pines. We are going to charge $25 a ticket for that event, and it'll be bring your own chair and bring your own drinks. Pepe's Bistro will be there serving food, and Alex Knight, one of our board members, Alec, raise your hand. She and Wendy are working hard on getting things started, so Alex is going to sort of head a subcommittee and work on that. So that is going to be May 17th, and the rain date will be Sunday, June 7th. So if the 17th has bad weather, some storms, we'll back it up to the 7th. And then we will have Music in the Pines like we did last year, and Music in the Pines was very successful. And so it'll be our 2nd annual Music in the Pines. It'll be Sunday, October 11th, with a rain date the following Sunday, October 18th. So the 11th is the plan, and if something comes up, then we'll move it. So let's do 2 more drawings. We'll do 2 more. And while she's doing that, I'm going to ask if anybody's had any fun bird sightings. Has anyone had anything interesting? Ross, what have you had out at your house?
With that storm yesterday, I had a little fox sparrow underneath.
Fox sparrow. Good. Okay.
Mark Nicholson. All right.
Yes,
We,
Dakota.
a few of the UNL Bird Club have heard and seen pipperdoodles, woodcocks on East Campus.
Woodcock's on East Campus. Okay. Well, good. Do you know where on East Campus? Is it over by the creek or?
Behind the Life Sciences building.
Behind the Life Sciences building. Okay. I know last year there was some out at Pioneer Park, and they were really fun to watch when they were in there. The males were doing their breeding, up and down, flying.
I think this year's probably going to be a good year.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Good. Okay, the Bird Club. The Bird Club happened to, I'll just mention to the group, Wachiska Board helped subsidize the UNL and UNO clubs, sent folks out last weekend to Rose Sanctuary to see the cranes. We had a little advocacy training in the afternoon and followed by the crane visit. So we had the UNL Birding Club and then the UNO Audubon Club.
Lana? With Laura?
There's Lana.
Lana?
Yep.
Okay.
We also saw some pelicans and a lot of gulls out at Branched Oak.
Branched Oak Pelicans and Gulls. Okay. I've seen a couple bald eagles around out by Prairie Pines lately, and lots of blue jays and cardinals and chickadees and juncos, a few doves. Anything else? Bruce?
We saw some, about 20 buffalo heads at Conestoga and a couple green teals, cormorants,
Cormorants and buffleheads.
kind but no pelicans or eagles.
Okay. Anything else? Yes, Mark. Bald eagle at Holmes Lake. I hope they nest out there again. Someone sent us some pictures last fall of a nest that was in southwest Lincoln, a pair of bald eagles. And someone said there's one on Stevens Creek out by us somewhere. And I keep seeing one out there, so it might be. So hopefully we've got some nests coming. Okay, we've got a drawing.
Jeff Minor.
Okay, there's Jeff. And we'll let you draw one more after that, and I'll go on, and we just have a couple more things before we get on with the program. The legislature's on day, we got another one. Oh,
I'm just really excited to see the bluebirds coming to my
the bluebirds, good. Well, I've heard a few people that have seen some, and also cedar waxwings. A few people have seen some cedar waxwings.
I saw some strands of migrating geese that day of the storm. I went out
Yeah,
early in the morning before it got stormy. And there were just, I must have seen a couple hundred birds.
I went by Los Bluffs 2 weeks ago, and it was just white with snow geese down there. And they said there were 1,000 bald eagles, and there was over 100,000 snow geese, and there was 3,000, I think, swans. Lots of stuff.
Roxanne Smith?
Okay, where'd Roxanne get?
Where's Roxanne? Oh,
Todd,
right
what do you got?
I was in Kearney, weekend before last. I have never seen, and the people in the area who were nearby agreed, so many snow geese and just the numbers were incredible.
Yep.
Not typical.
Last week there were 405,000 cranes when we were out at the blind. The week before it was 115,000, and we probably had 5 to 10 right out in front of us. We had a really good blind that night. But yeah, there's 405 last week. We'll see. I'm sure this week probably build up a little bit more, so that usually peaks about 6 to 800,000. So Ross?
I live by wagon train, and the other day, I just turned my Merlin on, and I had a cackling geese, white-fronted geese, snow geese, and Canada,
All within hearing of your Merlin. So you get all the geese, the big four. Yep, Dakota.
Joss and I were out at the salt basins this last weekend, or maybe early in the week, and as the sun went down and we were leaving, we saw we think 1,000 speckled-bellied geese, or white-fronted geese, landing in basins.
Okay.
Which is not, I don't see those too often. I feel like they come and go.
The speckled. Okay.
Arliss?
Well, I'm going to give a quick legislative update, and I know that Senator Davis has been hard at work. Al Davis is one of our board members now, and he's been working hard. He's the lobbyist for the Sierra Club, and so him and Ken Winston have been doing a yeoman's job along with the Nature Conservancy, and also we've got Tracy with the Great Plains Audubon. But next Tuesday, they've got the next 2 days off. Tomorrow and Monday are off. Got to celebrate over the weekend, so it's a 4-day off. But starting Tuesday will be day 44 already, and it's only 60-day session, so that's only 16 days left. And the speaker announced today that there will be priority bills that will not get heard this year. They're just going to flat out run out of time. The last couple of days they've been talking about LB 1071 and 1072. Those are the budget bills. And of course the takes from the Environmental Trust are in that 1072. And they started out with 40 million, 32.7 million. They were taking and giving to Game and Parks because they were taking 50 million of their funds. and they were going to use that money for Lewis and Clark for boat slips and some bank stabilization and some dredging. Well, they've backed off now and said that they're just going to do dredging and bank stabilization. They're not going to put any money into the boat slips because they realize that's not under the purview of the trust, and they didn't want to get sued. So right now they're looking at 11.1 million take from the environmental trust, but there's folks talking about taking another million or two, or maybe even 3 million. So we'll have to wait and see what the final bill looks like. It got forwarded out of general file. Now it's on select file. So we'll see what happens the next couple of weeks. They've got to get it taken care of. Next Wednesday or Thursday, the speaker said they would bring those back up. So they'll be on the agenda next week. And so we'll know how things are going to go, because by final reading, they'll have to have things figured out, and they have to have a budget finalized by day 50. So they've only got 6 days to get that through, 6 working days. The one that I hope folks here are going to watch, and I'll probably put out some sort of an alert, and that's LR 298CA. LR 298CA. It hasn't been scheduled yet, but it's out of committee, and it came out 7-0, so we were very happy with that. There were no dissenting votes. Senator Brandt made it his priority bill, but again, we don't know if it's going to get to the floor. We hope it will. And that will put the environmental trust on the ballot in this fall, if it passes by 30 votes or more. And that would say basically that they cannot take money from the trust, that the trust money, NET money, has to be used for competitive grants and administrative purposes within the NET. So we might finally get some respite for the NET if this gets passed. So we're hoping that goes through. It would prevent future raids. And there seem to be some pretty good numbers. We're looking at 20, 25 senators that are pretty on board right now, but you never know what'll happen. The administration can put some pressure on folks, but I'll probably be putting an action alert out and asking people to send a note to their senator and even other senators, because it's out of committee now, natural resources, and it should be on the floor very soon, we hope. So that's the biggie, is LR 298CA. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our president, Teresa Pella, and she's going to. Oh, yes, go ahead, Todd.
Are they still stealing $1 million from the Wildlife Conservation?
Yes, that's still in there. Yep. And they're changing the language in LB 72 that says that they can do it the same, like they're trying to put the word recreation into the Environmental Trust Act. So in the future, they could build boat slips with it. So yeah, there's still some dangerous language in there. Al, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for your advocacy and working on this bill. We did a vote count the other day, and we've got 20 who are yes, 6 who are leaning yes, and there are, I think, 6 no firm no's. The firm no's are noisy folks.
Yeah, yep.
That's concerning, and the speaker basically has kind of said, if people are going to filibuster something, I'm maybe going to slip over it. So I'm hopeful that won't happen.
Yeah.
We are going to need support with it. But I mean, we've got 26 good votes. We need
Yep.
33 if we have to go to cloture, 30 for a constitutional amendment to go on the ballot.
Yep. Okay, good. So Al was saying that we've got 20 good votes and 6 people leaning our way, but we've also got 5 or 6 that are saying no, and they could be obstinate and try to filibuster, and then the speaker may pass over the bill. So yep. So we've got some work yet to do, but we're a lot further than we thought we were going to be. At the beginning of the session, we didn't think we'd even get it out of committee or get it prioritized. So that's good. So with that, I want to thank everybody for your support this year. Teresa's going to talk about the great things we did last year, and maybe about some things that are coming up. I mentioned some of the functions that we've got going on. We've also got Prairie Discovery Days coming up this spring and fall with Tim with the Education Committee. So before I go on, why don't I have board members that are present go ahead and raise your hand so everybody can see we've got several board members here tonight. So, yep. So good. So thank you again for your service. And with that, I'll turn it over to Teresa Pella, our president, and then we'll do some more drawings when we get to another pause. As you can see, we still got a few things up here. So Teresa?
Okay,
And
all right, thanks,
for
Mark.
keeping us up to date with the legislature.
With the who?
With the legislature. Yep, we'll send out another
Right.
update.
Right. And just to clarify, when Mark was talking about all the events that are coming up, he was saying, we're going to have booths at these events, not booze.
Booths, yes. My San Diego accent.
Yeah. All right, so this meeting is kind of a different format. So thank you all for coming, and thank you to those who are joining us live stream. Wachiska's kind of at a point where, the board was feeling it's important that we spend some time outside of ourselves and talking to members and friends about where we are, where kind of we're thinking we need to go, and then hopefully when we're done, we'll have time to hear from you and give us input. Is this where you think we should be? And especially, I'd like the longtime Wachiska members to give some thought to, is this where you were thinking Wachiska would be going many, many years ago when you first formed this organization as a grassroots organization? Or as time went on and what you were doing there, is this organization headed in the direction that you as a longtime member are comfortable with and think we should be? So I especially like to hear from those folks. So a couple things I'm going to pass around if you didn't get them. This is the 2025 Statement of Activity compared to 2024. There's not quite enough for everybody, so if you want to share with your neighbor, that'd be appreciated. But if you didn't pick one up at the outside, I think you might find this one pretty interesting. And then the other one, if you're interested, at last month's meeting, the membership voted to approve some revisions that the board had recommended to the bylaws and the Constitution and bylaws. So this is the latest version of Wachiska's bylaws. If you want to take a copy of that, feel free to.
You want me to hand that out, Teresa?
Okay, and with that, we will start by, thanks Al, thanks Mark, thanks Roxanne. We'll start with kind of the mission and who we are. This was the mission, the current mission of Wachiska was developed by the board, I'm thinking 3-4 years ago, and maybe tweaked a couple of years ago. But the idea that kind of goes back to the original concept of preserving prairies and taking care of natural ecosystems and promoting birding and advocacy for sustainability of our natural community. As time has changed from when Wachiska was formed to now, words seem to carry more weight and more importance. And so the board has really spent some time on exactly, are these the words that we want to live by? So that's kind of where we are today. And then we finally, a couple years ago, came up with or after some research that several people did, came up with a phrase that we were comfortable with about the word Wachiska. Throughout the years, everybody's always had that question asked, and so we decided to, okay, we need to have something out there so that if anybody asks, we're giving a consistent response to what does Wachiska mean. So that is something that we include in the banner of our newsletter, it's in the letterhead that we do. So it's something that's out there that's been for a couple of years. I knew it, Linda. There we go. Okay. So this is kind of in a nutshell. This is a poster our Vice President, Ann Briggs, created last year. She went to the National Audubon's Leadership Conference and gave a couple of TED Talks. She put forth a proposal, and they said, yeah, that sounds good. So she did a couple of TED Talks and kind of summarized our Plants for Birds concept that a lot of Audubon chapters do. But we are, she found out we're kind of unique in a way that we own so much land that other chapters don't. And the fact that through that ownership, that gives us ready places to start with doing things for birds. So rather than going and doing bird walks here, there, and everywhere, through owning prairies, we get down and get our fingers and hands dirty to make sure that the habitats that we own are ones that are going to be productive for birds and other wildlife. So that was a poster that Ann put together that I thought was very succinctly kind of describes Wachiska too. And she got good reviews she got raves from her presentation there, and had a great time, really learned a lot at that conference. Oops. Okay, Mark had those who are on the board stand up, so these are last year's. Since then, let's see, for 2026, Chris Powers, Stu Littich, and Doug Campbell are the board members who have rolled off. And rolling on are Senator Al Davis and Alex Knight, and Nancy Bear is our third new board member for this year. And staff, we have, through the past maybe 3-4 years, we've been pretty consistent with staffing. We have, Mark has been with us now 4 years. Mark's been our executive director now for 4 years. I know it doesn't seem possible, but it's been a great load off of a lot of shoulders. And then last year, Arliss retired, and Wendy came in as our new part-time office administrator and social media. Wendy's forte is really in the social media side of the business, so she's been spending a lot of time on getting us out there in the world, kind of our name and what we do out there. And then we moved from a part-time bookkeeper to hiring a CPA firm a couple years ago, and that has really saved us a lot of grief. You know, we are a complex organization, and I think if you look through the statement of activity, you'll see a lot of budget line items. So there's a lot of moving parts to Wachiska these days that may not have been years ago, although there were more committees back then than there are today. But having a CPA has really been very good for us. We continue to utilize Stingray as our IT support, which came in very, very handy when we moved to Prairie Pines, and he helped Mark and Wendy get set up from the old building to the new building. And then he does our monthly, he's our spam checker, our virus checker. You know, everything that deals with computers, he comes in. Jeffrey helps us out with that. Northern Prairie Land Trust has been an entity that the Prairie Conservation and Management Committee has had an agreement with for 4 years, Ross, something like that, to kind of help with our owned prairies, the 9 prairies that we own. We got them, I mean, we pay Northern Prairie's Land Trust $0. We pay them nothing. They actually came to us along with Nebraska Game and Parks to see if we wanted them to help us out. Because some of our prairies are what they call biologically unique areas. And so they're identified in Nebraska's Legacy Project that Game and Parks puts together that includes, they have to do a review every so often. They have to look at every type of species that the state has, which ones are endangered. This is apart from the Federal Wildlife Service Endangered Species Act. This is part of a federal law, but it's a different law. But each state has to list which species, whether it's an insect, a bat, a bird, a tree, a plant. They have to go through a review and list to see what plants, what's out there that is endangered. There's like a tier 1, tier 2, and a tier 3, Mark? Yeah, I think there's a tier 3. Tier 1 is the most endangered list. So because some of our prairies, Wachiska prairies, have some of these, I think mostly plants that are either tier 1 or tier 2. Might be a couple of birds. But because of that, Game and Parks takes a special interest in those lands. And so because of that, we were approached by, and Northern Prairie's Land Trust is the contractor that Game and Parks uses for their work. So it's long story, that's how we came, Northern Prairie's Land Trust and Game and Park came knocking on our doors and asked us if we wanted help. And we said, sure. So they've been helping with the prairies, the 9 prairies that we own, not counting Prairie Pines Nature Preserve. Prairie Legacy has been a contractor that we've been using to help us re-engage our conservation easement properties and improve the quality of those, work with the landowners to improve the properties on our easements. Through the years, we've been very fortunate in people coming to us and wanting us to put a conservation easement on their property. And initially, those landowners took very good care of those properties because they had a vested interest in them. So Wachiska really was able to take a step back and let them do what needed to be done. Well, as the years go by, landowners pass away, the land is sold, the easement is a condition in a sale, so the deed says there's this easement here. But we kind of lost a little in that number one, we weren't sure when the lands were sold, so that was one thing. But we didn't have an opportunity, or we didn't take the initiative to talk to the new owners and explain to them why these easements are important and to offer to help them. So a few years ago, when we were successful in getting a Nebraska Environmental Trust grant, we hired Prairie Legacy to kind of start that, open the door with easement owners, go out and survey the lands, see what needed to be done. So that's been happening quite successfully in some manners. And so it's been really, really beneficial to have work with them. A little bit more about that later. Zukowski Weber has, through Audubon's, used to be Audubon, Nebraska, which is now Audubon Great Plains, they have always had a contract with Zukowski Weber to help them support legislative actions, support the subjects that they care about. Wachiska and Omaha Audubon has traditionally chipped in what we each could afford, but the bulk of the contract was paid by Audubon Great Plains. And so Wachiska traditionally has always, I think the last at least 10 years, has chipped in $3,000 towards that contract. So not a lot, but it gave us, provided us with, we could do what we could because we knew they were doing a good job. Up until 2026, Audubon Great Plains has said that they weren't able to negotiate, or they weren't able to do a contract with Zukowski because their financials priorities were shifted a little bit. So, but what we have had is Audubon Great Plains hired a senior policy manager last year, Tracy, whom Mark mentioned earlier. And Tracy, between Tracy and Mark, those two have kind of taken on a role of keeping the rest of us up to date with what's going on and when we need to take some action. And then throughout sending out mail chip alerts and that kind of stuff. So even though we've lost a little because Zukowski Weber would do Zooms with us every once in a while and give us some insight that we may have been missing, we were still able to pay attention and keep up with the most important things that are happening down at the legislature. And I think with Senator Davis joining us on the board, I think that's going to be another avenue that we can rely on. So that's where legislative relations. And then Prairie Pines Partners, as everyone knows, we received the preserve last year from the University of Nebraska Foundation, moved out there, and the board at the time that we moved there decided that the joint management, because Prairie Pines Partners was another not-for-profit organization that had a role out at Prairie Pines, the decision was that piece of property would be managed with a joint committee. So Wachiska representatives, Prairie Pine representatives, and a couple of other people, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I wanted to point out the president of Prairie Pines Partners Board is actually here tonight, Naomi Coles. I think you're the only one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Naomi's here if you want to ask her questions about Prairie Pines Partners later. So any questions? I mean, we're small enough. If anyone has any questions, just raise your hand as we're going. And I or Mark or someone can try to answer them.
But let's do mic so people at home.
Okay,
Naomi, would
right.
you help pass a mic?
Yeah, so if you have a question, raise your hand and we'll get a mic out to you. So one of the basics of any not-for-profit organization is supporters. We can't do anything without people supporting what that organization wants to do. And Linda Brown back there in the corner has grateful, I am truly grateful, and Mark is too, that she's managed the members and supporters part of the business as a volunteer for many, many, many years. So thank you, Linda. But these are some stats, and the one thing I wanted to point out that I think is interesting is The donations that we've received from 2024 to 2025 is that people have, we see this as a good thing, that people are believing in what we're doing because the donation amounts have risen a little bit in all the categories. You know, regardless if someone was able to only give less than $100, you know, that the number of people who are coming in to do that is a little bit, 11% increase from 2024. And, you know, likewise, those who are able to give a donation of $1,000 or more for the course of the year, the number of people who have been able to do that has increased. So we're seeing this as a sign that it's a positive, that people are supporting what Wachiska is trying to do. And then volunteer hours, there's just no way to, we've tried from time to time to count volunteer hours, and there's just been so much work and so many things that are done through volunteer hours. We kind of just get lost in the quagmire. But, you know, if you have volunteered, and I think a great majority of you here today have volunteered doing something, thank you, and keep it up, please. Okay, a quick shot at finances. So this is a very high level shot of where the revenues and expenses and assets were at the end of 2025. This one is, and these are way out of whack, and the reason for this is that the Prairie Pines donations, because the land was donated to Wachiska in 2025, the value of the land counts as a donation. So it was the value, and it's been assessed at about $1.4 million. So that's why we're looking so way out of whack. And the statement of activity, if you get into the details, then it will make a little more sense to you. But that was revenue. Oops, went the wrong way. Sorry. And expenses. Likewise, so, and you'll see at the bottom here, the graphs are different, totally different. I think the revenue was, you know, 1.4 million. Here we're talking 120,000. So this one, the highest use of, or the highest expenses came from the Prairie Conservation and Management Committee. So that includes work that was done on both the non-Prairie Pines lands that we own and the easement work that Prairie Legacy was doing with some of the landowners. So they were close to a little over 100,000. And then Prairie Pines professional services are, like I mentioned, the CPA, some of the IT folks, some of the other folks there. Mark and Wendy's expenses, their salaries are included in I think your office. No, you must be professional services. No, I think I'm missing a line item there. Yeah, that doesn't look right. Yeah, when I was trying to do a pivot table, this was just driving me nuts. Anyway, you can find their, I'm sorry about that, but they're in the statement of activity. We'll give you what their salaries have been and payroll. So we pay for Mark and Wendy. We pay salaries and taxes, payroll taxes. You know, we don't pay anything for insurance benefits, anything for health benefits. Time off, Mark does earn time off. Wendy is part-time, so she doesn't. So we are still pretty bare bones when it comes to staffing levels. And then for assets, so again, this jumped, if you go to the left, start at the right and go to the left, of course, the Prairie Pines land value is the most or the highest valued land or highest valued asset that we currently have. And then after the orange one to the left of it are the other prairies that we own. They're valued around, what is it, I think about 600,000, a little bit more. But so this it shows you kind of at the end of 2025, we had some funds in CDs. We have most of our accounts are at Lincoln Community Foundation. We invest, our investment accounts are with them. We have, I think that's about all of it, some endowments, a few endowments. So yeah. So we're looking at, if you look total assets, about 3.9 million is where we're sitting today. So notes, and some of these I've already mentioned.
We'll get a microphone rolling.
The prairies that are owned, do the income from those prairies more than offset the expenses involved?
It's close, yeah.
So
It usually is. I mean, yeah. And so Ross Scott, Ross is our Prairie Conservation Management Committee chair this year, and he can answer a little bit. But yeah, in fact, they make a little bit more. So they are still haying most of the prairies or the different parts of the prairies at different times. Klapka, the one by Pawnee City, is the only one that we have
Grazing.
grazing. Yeah, that's the term. I don't know, anything else you want to say, Ross?
Yeah. I'd like to thank Stu Ludig for really carrying our books for our property for several years now. He does a really good job with it. And we produce income on our property. We pay taxes, so we have it pay for itself in hay mostly and grazing. Grazing at Klapka. And plus, we have 2 CRP contracts, and they each bring in $9,000 a year. So there's $18,000 just in CRP, and then we about $10,000 to $12,000 in grazing fees, because we charge about $1.60 per animal unit per day, and we graze from May till November. We have just under 400 acres down. When we graze about 350 of it, and then we hay another 50 that doesn't have fencing around it. And then our other properties, we charge so much per acre per year for the right to graze it, or hay it. And most of them are hayed once a year, or we defer haying when we're going to be burning. But plus, we've got the Environmental Trust grant that brought in quite a bit of money to reimburse us for work that we've been doing on our land.
Right. Number 3 up there talks about from the Nebraska Environmental Trust for 2025.
So,
We were reimbursed about 67,000, little over almost 68,000 last year during the fiscal year last year. And
so
that,
we're in the black.
we're in the black, right, yeah. And Ross makes an important point that I think we need to talk about is, he mentioned on our prairies that we own, we pay property taxes. And that is true. We always have because, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ross, but where our prairies are located are in small communities, small counties, where what we own is a big portion or a significant portion of that county's revenue. So it's always been Wachiska's position that, you know, if we're going to be part of the community, we should be paying part of the property taxes. Last year, when we received Prairie Pines Nature Preserve, we did apply for a property tax exemption on that property because it had always been exempt from property taxes. So it is in Lancaster County, but it's never been, or as far as I know, I shouldn't say never.
Walt paid taxes, but yeah, since Walt
Walt
gave it
paid
to the university in
taxes.
the early 90s, there hadn't been taxes paid.
Right.
The foundation never paid taxes.
Right. So we were comfortable applying for an exemption for that property, and we were granted that. So Prairie Pines, we do not pay property taxes on. Every other prairie we own, we do.
And Prairie Pines, that's all of the area, right? All of the Prairie
The
Pines.
145 acres of Prairie Pines,
Right.
the whole amount is exempt because of the education purposes, and it's open and free to the public. So yeah, the county luckily said that is an educational property for educational purposes primarily, and gave us the exemption. It saves us about $16,000 a year,
Yeah.
so it's a significant amount.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, if we turned it into something like the money-making machine, then no, we'd have to start paying taxes. Okay, but yeah, these are some notes. I think I mentioned the number 1, the revenue was so outlandish because, wonderfully outlandish, because we have the property. Number 2, we hadn't talked about, but when we did receive Prairie Pines, the property, there was an endowment that came with the property. And that is held at Lincoln Community Foundation. However, it does not show up on our financial statements because Wachiska does not own that account. The account is tied directly to the land. So if Wachiska ever divests itself of the land, that endowment has to go with the land. However, we do receive, and we will receive, an annual payout from that endowment. So Lincoln Community Foundation has estimated right now that around $19,000. So it's something, it's funds that will help us offset for expenses that we have out at Prairie Pines, or if we want to do something more. But if you look for it on, and Mark and I we went around and round and round on that. Why isn't it on our financial statement? And finally, the nice lady down at Lincoln Community Foundation said, look, here's the deal. And it made sense. After that, it made sense. But it's wonderful that there is, that the property does have an endowment fund. And then number 3, again, NET. 2025, NET's fiscal year ends mid-June. So in June 2025, the first 3-year grant that Wachiska received from NET ended. And at the same time, we received approval for a second 3-year grant. So we are first year of our second NET grant, so part of the 67 was part of the old grant, and some of it is part of the new grant. So we have, the Prairie Conservation and Management Committee has the tricky job now of trying to figure out what we can do on the properties that we're pretty sure we'll get reimbursed for. Since the whole NET legislation or the appropriations is grabbing from everywhere, our current grant may get impacted by what happens downtown. Right now, we're looking okay. We're moving forward because there's stuff that needs to be done. Whether or not NET pays for it or not, there's work that needs to be done. Okay, and then, so moving into just quickly on overview of the strategic plan. A few years ago, the board worked on creating a 2025-2029 5-year strategic plan. And so we created 3 overarching plans, focus areas. And then each year under those focus areas, we've sat down and said, okay, what can we realistically do this year for this goal? And so for 2025, we kind of have been working on solidifying our organization, making sure that this organization is in a position and in a way that it doesn't matter who's sitting in what chair in the boardroom or in the meeting room, is that this organization will be able to survive and thrive. So we've been working on setting up the parameters, the guardrails, whatever you want to call them. And this last year, one of the main things we did was we contracted with a local professional fundraiser, fund development person, who sat down with us, and we said, okay, give us some ideas for, how do we move forward, and where are some ways we can look. And so Liz Lang is her name. Liz worked with us to put together a plan that includes long-term, gave us ideas on foundations that are out there that support conservation organizations, some corporations, names of corporations that are known to give and help conservation organizations, and individuals. So we now have a report, we have a document that we can work from. So I think that's going to be very, very helpful as we go through the next few years. So that's what we did on that one. For goal number 2 is, and this kind of goes back to the prairies again, is that we had Prairie Legacy, who a couple years ago started working with easement owners, and so we wanted to continue building on that. So Kay Cotis is the owner of Prairie Legacy. And so she and her staff have continued to knock on doors, work with the owners, found out there's a lot of brome grass everywhere, shrubbery, coming up in where it shouldn't be coming up, where it's not beneficial to have. Just a lot of a lot of basic things on how do you take care of a prairie. So staff has been working with landowners to kind of make them cognizant of the need to do that on their own. We're eventually hoping to get to the point where landowners don't need Kay's hand. She doesn't need to hold their hand while they do it, is that they'll understand why it's important and kind of take it over on their own. So that's kind of where we have been focusing last year. And then continuing with the prairies we own. Ross and others have just continued to dog away at things that Northern Prairie Lands Trust hasn't been able to do. So we've had volunteers out there doing that. So that is 2. And then the second part of that is Prairie Pines. Our first year out there, we were kind of we formed this committee, as I said, in addition to Prairie Pines Partners in Wachiska, Northern Platte South, NRD is a member of that management committee. And we thought that was very important for them to have representation because they own a conservation easement on Prairie Pines Nature Preserve. So we kind of have the roles are changed when it comes out there. We are the landowner who's responsible for doing what needs to be done, and the NRD is kind of our overseer, our partner to make sure that it gets done right. So having them on the committee has been a very, very positive thing. And then we've got one of the neighbors was very, very interested when we started talking and wanted to be involved. So we have one of the neighbors of Prairie Pines that is on there. So this committee our initial charge was to them, okay, sit down, tell us what needs to be done yesterday. And so things that absolutely needed to get done. So they've been working on that. There's still a few things out there, I think, that they're doing. But eventually the charge is going to be to them, okay, start thinking about what do we need for the future? What's the Prairie Pines Nature Preserve of the future look like? And what would you recommend to the boards that happens out there? So it's kind of taking it from the very basic to let's look at what can we do? How can this vital piece of land be important for Lancaster County and especially the northeast part of Lancaster County and the people who are moving out there? And as part of that, before we got the property, the university had ongoing agreements with Community Crops. They've had 5 or 6 acres out there growing crops for 20-some years. We wanted to continue that with them, so that was an easy one. And then we also had Nebraska Forest Service has been doing tree research out there on a part of the land for several years. And so we're still kind of trying to figure out what does that kind of look for them and for us. So that's still going. And then, I don't know, Mark can talk to this much better than I can, but Game and Parks has also historically done hunter education for elementary kids.
Well, they're mostly probably junior high age. They're young teenagers. It's a youth mentored hunting archery, and they come out and they put up game cameras and they watch the deer, and then they come out and do hunts. When the public's not there, they come early in the morning, and so it's a youth mentored program. Just a couple, but we do have a lot of deer out there, so it helps us manage deer, but it also teaches young kids how to hunt. They have a mentor that's assigned with them. So they've got about, I think, 6 tree stands throughout the forest, and they've got little signs on them explaining what it is, and they're going to put even more information out so people understand the management of deer.
Yeah, so it's kind of how to hunt ethically, too. Okay. All right, number 3, the third goal under the strategic plan was for Wachiska to become better known as an entity that people and other organizations turn to learn more about tallgrass prairies, about just prairies and birds in general, especially through the southeast Nebraska, and not just to understand what they are, but what's needed to protect them, because this is a very rare ecosystem. So with that, one of the first things we thought was, well, let's see if we can find how can we help Prairie Pines Nature, how can that piece of ground help us in educating students and groups and just about prairies in general and natural ecosystems. And so Music in the Pines was kind of a kickoff to introduce people to the land and also to Wachiska. And Wendy was the lead on coordinating that last year. And we had over 250 people, and it was amazing. Everyone we asked, well, I would say 95% of the people who came, and we would ask them, have you ever heard of Wachiska? No. Have you ever been to Prairie Pines before? No. But I'm certainly coming back. You know, so it was a great way to open a lot of doors to that. And as a result, people have been coming out and exploring Prairie Pines more. And I think we've probably picked up a few people attending meetings and paying a little more attention to Wachiska in general. But we've a couple of other things that we've had an Ollie group out there. Volunteer work day, what, 30-some people, Mark?
Yeah,
Yeah.
almost 40, yep.
Yeah, 30-some people showed up our first volunteer day. Second one's coming up March 22nd.
Yes,
Yeah.
the cedar tree cut.
Yeah, and then we tried one of the things that Wachiska did so well years and years ago was bird outings, bird field trips. You know, y'all did such a great job on those, and you would have lots of people attend. Through the years, every time we've tried to do one, we get maybe 5-6 people. You know, so it's not something that is a huge attender, but we kind of keep trying in different ways. So we thought, well, let's try doing a fall migration. You know, everybody does a spring migration survey. So we did a fall migration survey. I think we had 6 or 7. Wasn't a big group of people, but you have to start somewhere. But again, trying to look at what birds go south as well as what birds are going north in the springtime. And yeah, Mark has been, I think you've kind of captured his working with other organizations on comment letters. I was going to count and I forgot how many comment letters the board approved this last year on a variety of things. But that Mark every so often will bring something to the board and ask us to get approval to do that. And then the final one there, Nebraska Grassland Alliance, is a group that has been around for quite a few years. And Dakota Altman, one of our board members, Dakota has been pretty instrumental, I think, in moving that group, getting that group up and running and moving along. But this is a wonderful organization. It's a wonderful way for grassland groups specifically to talk to each other, to share information, you know, probably share information on burns, help each other out with doing burns or whatever, seeds, anything. But it's a group that the board voted to join just recently. But I think that's going to be another way for us to get our name out there as an entity that has grasslands and share what we've been doing. And then also education through outreach. Tim has been the champion for outreach education the last few years and has coordinated just a whole lot of different things that we're kind of in a groove now that we participate in. And it's been keeping he and others very busy on these, but they've been, you know, if you want to believe in good things, you know, just volunteer for a nature night at one of the elementary schools or come help out at Deacon Prairie during Prairie Discovery Days when the 4th graders, elementary kids are out there just running wild through the prairie, and you give them a net and insects. They love insects. And of course, our prairies have a ton of those. So yeah, that's an easy way to volunteer to kind of get a feel for the education part of what Wachiska does. Okay, one of the things that actually Wendy has helped a lot with, but some of these grantors have been in place for quite a while. We've had, the NRDs have been very, very helpful in giving matching grants for the prairie work that we do and the education work that we do. Each of those NRDs up there has been very, very helpful with that. And has Game and Parks, you know, they've been very supportive for Wachiska's work. The Aspergren Foundation was a foundation that we got in from Liz Lang, from our fund development person, that we were lucky enough to get a $10,000 grant for. So that helped with office expenses. And likewise, Lincoln Industries, that last one, is one of the industries that Liz gave us that Mark tapped into, and they gave us a grant. Nebraska Arts Council, Wendy was the one who worked with them on Music in the Pines, and so expenses for that event were offset partially through a grant from the Arts Council. And then sponsors. We've been fortunate through the years that our Tour of the Wild Side has been pretty consistent in our sponsorship, and this helps just pay for little things. This is not a Tour of the Wild Side is not a education outreach event that costs a lot of money. It's the finding homeowners who are turning their properties into native landscapes or partial native landscapes be able to talk to others about what does that take to do that? How do you do that? What were the challenges that you found? What were your successes, your failures? Excuse me. And then on the right side are pretty much a list of those sponsors who helped out with Music in the Pines. So we did not charge for Music in the Pines this last year. It was total donation base. So Wendy and Mark knocked on doors, a lot of doors beforehand to get some sponsorships for that event. So that's 2025. So quickly looking ahead to 2026 and some of the priorities for this year that the board has talked about is we'll continue to develop our structure. And part of that in the bylaws that membership approved last month included the creation of what's called a nomination and governance committee. And that committee is going to kind of pull together kind of our policies, make sure our policies are up to date. Look at when we get into a board pipeline, working with the board president and others on potential board members, and actually coming out and finding people who are interested in developing and creating a relationship with them before we ask them if they want to be a board member. Because there were probably, Al is one of them. We say, hey, you want to be on the board? And he's like, sure. What are you all about? Well, what do you do? Well, so, just that way of engaging people better to help them kind of come along with us. The other thing, going back to our prairies, is the easements on the Conservation and Management Committee is those 23 easements we've been talking about. We're asking them to kind of take a critical look at and working with Prairie Legacy and look at those and say, okay, and recommend to the board, because the board really has never had any insight into those easements and what they mean and what they're costing us and a lot of other stuff. So we're asking that committee to work with Prairie Legacy, put together a report for us recommending we keep them. Here's why. We try to see if we can, this person is, just doesn't want to work at all with us, and so let's just do away with him. But we're asking them to kind of, the land, not the person, Mark. So that's one of the tasks we've gave them. And then the other one is, we still get asked. Wachiska gets asked of properties. Somebody wants to donate to us. Somebody wants us to put an easement on their property. In years past, we've kind of just said, yeah, okay. But as we've learned, it takes money to manage properties. And so this is something that we're kind of how much money that another charge for the committee is, if we're getting land from someone, do we ask them for an endowment for that land that we know will be able to manage it in the future? So the committee has, in addition to what they're doing now, a couple of tough questions before them. And then the third priority is we're going to continue to look for ways we can engage with the community, try to increase the diversity of things and who we work with, and just continue to do build upon our policy work. So with that, I am done. Some of our friends that we passed, who we lost last year, probably most people know who Peg and Bruce were. Sam Welsh was the husband of Patty Spitzer. Well, Sam was a member too. And Melvin was someone, Melvin was one of those, was someone who really was not a consistent attendee or anything, but Linda knew Melvin, and he was, when he passed, he gave Wachiska a nice little, he remembered us in his will. And so something someone did many, many years ago for him that carried with him, and he came back and gave us a nice gift, nice bequest. So with that, Wendy?
Oh, yep. Oh, hey. Are you done?
Well, I was gonna, if you're gonna say something, I was
We
gonna
were going
ask
to give away
Alex.
some more prizes. And oh, does somebody have a question?
Well, I was gonna see if Alex wanted to come up and talk
Oh,
about.
yeah, Alex and I are both. Yeah. Come on up. I'm going to hand this over to Alex really quick, but I just wanted to say that we've already been selling tickets to Comedy in the Pines. Comedy in the Pines is in the spring, and this is a ticketed event, but Music in the Pines will still be free again in the fall, just so you know that. But we are going to give away 2 of these tickets tonight in our drawing. So, Alex, I just want you to...
Now I'm going to be begging for a little bit of help, but it's way fun. The help would come, first of all, for our comedy in the Pines, and it would be just the evening after the comedy. I have some folks set up to help on Saturday, but on May 17th, after we're all finished, I could use a few folks to call me or call Wendy's number. It's on your handout here, bottom right-hand corner. And it's very simple, very fun, very easy. It would be to walk around and put any of the plates or plastic goods or anything that folks bring off of Pepe's truck and put it into garbage sacks. Folks are going to bring their own chairs. You don't have to pick up chairs. They're going to bring whatever they want to drink, so you probably wouldn't have much to pick up, and maybe in terms of cups or anything. But basically, you know, like when you go camping, pack out what you brought in. So whatever people leave, we're going to clean it up. There will be some lights that Wendy will have out there. If you've been there last year for the Music in the Pines, you would pick those up. And basically, it's kind of smooth and easy and organized. I know Mark will be out there, and we'll be out there guiding everybody about what to pick up. Also, pretty please think of helping or getting other folks to help for cleanup for the Music in the Pines, October 11th. Is that right? So the same kind of process of cleaning up, picking anything up, making sure that the land looks as good as it was when people showed up. So it'd be pretty simple. Just give us a phone call. Let us know one or both dates that you can help us out, and it'd be a great thing to have you there. Yeah. Did you? Yeah.
We need about 6 people for Comedy in the Pines. Alex already has 4 people signed up. Just someone to direct parking in through the gate and check people's tickets, and then clean up afterwards. And you get a free ticket to the show if you're going to be a volunteer. And then for Music in the Pines, same thing. Just help with parking. Make sure people have the driver's license, and then clean up. And then just call Alex, because I think if we have a crew of like 6 people for Comedy in the Pines and a crew of maybe like the same we did last year of 15 people or so, we'll sell hot dogs again, I'm sure, in the fall. So, but I'm going to give away some prizes now. So if I say the number, then, or you, Mark, you want to say the numbers?
Sure, you say the
Or I'll say the name, and then you say the name.
Okay, and does anyone have any questions for Teresa while we're doing this? Does anyone have any questions for Teresa while we're getting the next couple drawings going?
Yeah, or comments. Is this the level of information y'all need? Was this helpful?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Linda Brown.
Yeah.
Oh, Linda Brown.
I'll take it back to her. This one?
Teresa, Paula. Ross Scott.
Back to Ross. Okay.
Pro tip.
Tom Lynch.
Tom's back over here. Okay.
I have a lot of prizes to give away, so this is all I'm doing right now. So feel free to ask me questions while I'm giving away anything. April.
Just where you sign.
No, I'm not a comedian that night. No.
Oh, yeah.
We have professionals.
The professional comedians are coming from throughout the
Yeah.
region.
Even though Wendy was one of the performers for
I'm not
Music
a
in the
comedian.
Pines.
No,
No,
no.
I'm saying
No,
last year
no,
she was
no.
with the Music in the Pines. But we won't be active in the Comedy in the Pines. Yeah, Tim. We've got the names. Do you know much about them? Wendy, do you want to say? Here.
So, yeah, oh, sure. The comedians are Zach Peterson, who won the Omaha Arts Entertainment Award of 2025. He runs Broken Magic Comedy out in Omaha. He's originally in Chicago, moved to Omaha. And then we have Lauren Vanna, who did a comedy documentary for the Omaha Film Festival. And then Nathan Holtz with the San Diego Comedy Festival. And I think he did on the Denver High Plains Comedy Festival, and won like Best Comic Standing as our headliner. That's a national competition. So those three comedians will be out at Prairie Pines. But you know, comedy is, you know, some people think some people are funny, some people don't. But I think it's just a great way to bring lots of people from different walks of life together, and have a good time and just have a good laugh together. So.
We need comedy.
We need comedy, yeah.
Okay. Who's the next winner? Okay.
18, Diana Stemper. Diana Stemper.
Good.
Okay.
There you go.
Bruce Mulvey and April.
We'll get Drew, April. Yeah, they were together. You already get. So we got Bruce.
Deb Nicholson.
Right there.
Oh, great. Just grab.
Let's go.
Jocelyn.
Jocelyn, you got the taste of Prairie Pines comedy.
Joanne
Pepperell.
Pepperell? Naomi Coles?
I did just renew my membership tonight. I got my letter. and I
You
got
got
my
it
check.
just in time.
Todd Paddock?
Todd?
Todd deal. I did. It's been sitting on my counter. I've been meaning to mail it in.
Thank you very much.
Tim Malone? Cheryl Moncure?
Back on this one over there.
Mark's getting his workout.
Yeah, I get my steps in.
Mine's always
Dakota Altman?
Back here.
Al Davis? Um, 11. Alex Knight? Thank you. Oh, that's just an empty bag.
Oh, that's an empty bag, okay.
I accidentally gave an empty bag out earlier. Sorry, no, thank you.
Okay, we got
And we've got number 7 is Mark Van Wooten.
Mark.
And number 12 is Bill and Donna. Bill and Donna, you have to be 2 separate surprise
Well, thank you, everybody. And we do have cookies, as always, out there. And Ross was kind enough to bring some of his homemade cookies too. So, so we've got homemade cookies and the regulars. So, do you want to say about next month, real quick?
Oh, yes, everybody. So some of you might be wondering why the timing of Comedy of the Pines. I want to say this first, is it's Give to Lincoln in May, and that's Give to Lincoln Week, and that was really big for us last year. And so we wanted to do something to celebrate the Lincoln Community Foundation's Give to Lincoln Day. So we are also sort of partnering with Friends of Wilderness Park, who will also be out there, and we've invited Spring Creek as well to be out at Comedy in the Pines. And it's a celebration of, a green alliance of people so Comedy of the Pines is a celebration of Give to Lincoln. The second thing I wanted to say is Allison, you have your schedule in front of you. We'll be our speaker next month. And we also have Jerome Kills Small the following month after that through Humanities Nebraska. So he is a speaker for Lakota, the Lakota Nation, speaking on water and spirituality, and he'll be that following month, I believe. Yes. So lots of good things coming up.
And Allison is the person that took Dr. Johnsgaard's position at the university, and she traveled with Dr. Johnsgaard and Linda to the Galapagos Islands. So a very talented individual, young lady. So be sure and come and hear her talk. And with that, we'll welcome everybody out for a cookie, and thanks for coming.